Hello out there. How's everybody doing? And welcome to the State of Joe. I'm your host, Joe Santiago. Wikipedia.com says English novelist, essayist, journalist, and critic Arthur Blair, pen name George Orwell, author of monumental works such as 1984 and Animal Farm, his work possesses a lucid prose with a biting social criticism and a total opposition to totalitarianism, and outspoken support of democratic socialism. Orwell had a famous quote that says, "It is deliberate policy to even the favored group somewhere near the brink of hardship, because a general state of scarcity increases the importance of small privileges and thus magnifies the distinction between one group and another." End quote. You notice how much effort and accomplishment you feel now by just going outside your house to get the mail? Or how much of an ordeal it is going down to the local convenience store for gas, or just to pick up milk? Can seem like a huge deal. Well, guess what? Newsflash. It's not a big deal. It's basically all in your head. The government has set its own precedent as to rules and hoops you must jump through to enjoy an activity that would have been just a normal activity. But now there are all sorts of rules and criteria you must meet to do simple things in the new normal. These activities can range from shopping or bartering, or the ability or right of buying and selling, or in restaurants and grocery stores, or the ability or right of eating and drinking, or in other situations like going to see a movie in a movie theater, going to see a live concert, or seeing a play or appreciating the arts and entertainment. To take away, of course, from the stress and pressure of really society, the news media, and politics. Unfortunately, these rules and precautions and regulations are also in many cases disrupting and upending the whole police industry, or our ability or right to safety and protection from increasing crime rates, while Americans are becoming increasingly irritated, angry, and combative. Because all they've been dragged through during the last 2 years, and add to that people being fired from jobs, and with the cost inflations rising simultaneously, with CNBC.com reporting that during the first few months of the coronavirus pandemic, some 22 million U.S. workers lost their jobs. Since then, many have returned to work, but there are still 10 million fewer U.S. jobs than before the pandemic began. And with these firings, or the stopping of the ability or the right to work and provide for him or herself and their families, and with our schools being so disrupted, where we're talking kids with COVID PTSD that will take generations to get over. Not to mention all the traumatized adults. With the school situation, it stops our right or ability for our children and young people to have an education. And it even has stopped churches from congregating and gathering, and especially essentially worshiping. So it's stopping individuals' right or ability to practice their personal religion, affecting synagogues and mosques as well. This pandemic was an extraordinary shift extraordinary shift in all the ways we will all do things from here on out. This pandemic's tentacles have touched every facet of human life as we know it, or have been grown accustomed to believing that life would always be as easy and carefree as it was before the pandemic struck. And think about it. Is this new system implemented with strict rules and mandates in our new normal they have given us all? Or the promised new world order and different ways of doing things and putting us through a giant dress rehearsal for what we can look forward to, perhaps the use of totalitarian tactics, government overreach, and more draconian personal mandates, and backwards logic rules and laws. Is this what the government of the United States and the world are readying us and prepping us for? With the vision of the soon-to-be realized and really is being constructed closer and closer to the completion of piece by piece, day by day, week by week, month by month, month by month, year by year, or however long it takes for them to establish once and for all the final solution. As the elite are cheerleading and pushing extremely hard for the Great Reset. Or is it coincidentally 2022, on February 1st, it was the Chinese New Year. In 2020, it was the year of the rat, or the metal rat. While we all spent the year playing the role of the experimental lab rat. Then there was 2021, and that year on the Chinese zodiac, last year, was the year of the ox, or the metal ox, or the cow, you could say. And get this, the word vaccine, which we were all receiving in mass quantities at the time, this was all taking place in 2021. The word vaccine actually comes from the Latin word vacca. And what is the definition of the Latin word spelled V-A-C-C-A, which we get the word vaccine from? You may ask. Well, vacca in Latin means cow, ladies and gentlemen. Then 2022 is the year of the tiger, or the beast, and it symbolizes also a warlike posture. Just as the Bengal tiger rears back and postures itself when threatened, it crouches down, and its ears, with the patterns on its fur, it appears to form a giant tiger's head to scare off other animals that pose a threat to the predator. Well, warlike posture in the year of the tiger is ringing true and is very significant right now as the recent war preparations being made in case Russia does decide to invade Ukraine officially. It sure looks and sounds like it's all happening sooner or later. The Bible NKJV, or New King James Version, puts it like this in Matthew chapter 24, verses 6 and 7. Jesus, speaking to his disciples on Mount Olive, in verse 6 says, "And you will hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that you are not troubled, for all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet." We continue with verse 7. It says, For nation will rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom, and there will be famines, pestilences, and earthquakes in various places. Well, that sounds a lot like today, doesn't it? With all the earthquakes that are happening and the famine and the pestilence and everything, all the bad stuff. And is this great reset of essentially everything, pretty much, and this new scarcity economy that they've created, and all the controlling of barter and buying and selling, and where to buy and sell from, and they have us all communicating in commerce, work, and conference calls, and they're doing virtual video doctor checkups now. And I even have a small claims court case for a bill in collections next month. And it's all on essentially a Zoom or Skype video call. So there's even virtual court now. And is this the mark of the beast? The year 2022 being the year of the tiger or the beast, and the indoctrination into the Great Reset. And perhaps this could be ways and means of what's known as the beast system from the Bible prophecy concerning the taking of the mark of the beast, which will control all buying and selling. Or is the mark of the beast perhaps just Amazon and its AI-powered algorithms? Well, the fact is that whatever the reason behind everything that citizens have been forced to do during this pandemic could definitely be looked at from a lot of people's perspective. A violation of the Declaration of Independence and its certain unalienable rights mentioned. That it says among these rights are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Now, obviously, it's not easy in this day and age to adapt to a pandemic strict lifestyle in a short period of time. But America, be proud of yourselves. You've done it. We've all nicely fit and set into the mold that our controllers have formed and shaped us into. Unfortunately, it is continuously putting a stop to America in the world's pursuit of happiness. The new normal has an overwhelming reliance on electricity, the internet, and new experimental technologies such as 5G and Elon Musk's aspirations to pepper the Earth's orbit with satellites. SpaceNews.com reported on January 18th, 2022, that SpaceX, along with CEO Elon Musk, have a satellite launching program called Starlink. There are more than 2,000 Starlink satellites currently in orbit. SpaceX's current, what's called a satellite internet constellation, as of now is authorized for a total of 4,408 satellites, all in orbits at around 550 kilometers, or a little over 310 miles above the Earth, in Earth's orbit. BusinessInsider.com says over the next few decades, Musk is hoping to send 42,000 satellites to space. Unfortunately, it adds that their bright reflections the satellites give off are already blocking the view of astronomers looking for deadly asteroids. So that is not a good thing, obviously. If we can't see the deadly asteroids coming, then they're going to hit us before we can do anything about it or try to react to it. Space.com reports that the SpaceX satellite launched on this February the 3rd only after being hit by a geomagnetic storm, supposedly, that's the story they gave, that caused 40 of the 49 satellites to fall out of the sky the next day on this February 4th, the 4th. And is this push for an electronically charged new normal, with all the electric cars and charging stations and satellites, and the New World Order organizes their hand and completely clears the deck with the promise of the Great Reset? And also, are those satellites being affected, like the planes, landing gear being affected by 5G, and the birds that are flying straight directly into the ground? There's video footage all around of birds just flying directly into the ground. Well, is 5G messing up their internal GPS system that they have, that birds have? And I would say it's highly likely that that's happening. But with all these electrical usage increases, I'm just saying we have to start building up the electrical grids now. I'm telling you, it's just, we have to do that. And this would be the worst time for a shutdown or power failure or some kind of banking hack. But that's unless you are part of the elite technocratic unelected group of rich influencers, because this is all going right along with their sick playbook and going right as planned. This all takes place at an annual meeting in Davos, Switzerland. For more than 50 years now, the WEF, or World Economic Forum, that is also known as the Davos Forum, and has served as a global platform where leaders from business, government, international organizations, civil society, and academia come together to address critical issues at the start of each year. And in 2021, the forum had to be canceled because of the pandemic. This all according to bbva.com. Now, Davos, this town in the Swiss Alps, is telling us how to live, all while Davos contains 119 billionaires, 53 heads of state, and the Swiss government budgeted $8.3 million for the conference's security costs in 2017 alone, according to businessinsider.com. So now we are dependent and reliant on the government to provide for us and get us accustomed to using screens of some sort to communicate. They decide who works and get us used to receiving government handouts or stimulus checks to normalize receiving a check from the government to solve your problems. They will help you to not get sick if you just shut up and put your mask on and do what we say. And get us also used to wearing masks, because they are promising us even worse pandemics looming over the horizon. Then when suddenly a mad scientist experiment goes horribly wrong, poof, we have a new pandemic or some kind of health crisis, a new health crisis to worry about. Well, how do you stoke fear, panic, anxiety, and a sense of urgency? Well, you see, for so long now, we Americans have been living up on our high horse, turning our nose up to other countries. No way, man. We're the strongest. We believe in freedom. We're the world police, man. Truth, justice, The American way. Well, if you're the leaders of the so-called free world and the world, you say, yes, we need a great reset of everything. Because for all these years, wages were not rising with inflation. So they start shutting off pipelines to the oil, which throws the economy in reaction mode. Then the pandemic changes behaviors and choices, and they start thinking, well, if I do this, I'll be fine. Or I'll do that. It will all work out. Giving people false hope with the illusion of progress. So they say, bam, we'll just give the average working stiff $4 or $5 more an hour. And that will help with the inflation. But the problem is, or again, may be not in this case, there's also a pandemic that's slaughtering the elderly, the obese or overweight, and those with pre-existing conditions, or called comorbidities. And wait, perfect, they say, as eliminating these groups from the workforce, the elderly, the obese, and those with a pre-existing condition. So they majorly trim down the workforce dramatically, so everybody has to work harder. But you see, that's why wages significantly increased. So they can say, look, we gave you higher wages, but employees are burning out. And now we are feeling the repercussions of a ravaged COVID employment cycle. That, combined with things like the truckers from Canada and America also planning its own trucker anti-vaccination mandate rally, planned for tomorrow, or later today, March the 1st, at the Capitol in Washington, D.C., and trust me, this week will not end well. NBCnews.com says that as many as 700 National Guard troops will be deployed to help police, as President Biden is also simultaneously giving his first State of the Union speech on March 1st, also tomorrow. We have our giant cargo ships just sitting out in the ocean, or we did have that. They've kind of got those moving now. Not being able to unload and burning fuel while they wait around. On the first day of Biden's presidency, he issued an executive order canceling the Keystone XL pipeline that USAtoday.com says would have moved up to 830,000 barrels or 35 million gallons of crude daily. Connecting in Nebraska from the oil sand fields of Western Canada to other pipelines that feed oil refineries on the U.S. Gulf Coast. USAtoday.com says that construction on the 1,200-mile pipeline began in 2020 when former President Trump revived the long-delayed project after it had been stalled under the Obama administration. So with all the changes of the new normal, with not as many people working or dying or getting sick or coaxed into taking a buyout where you retire and the company pays you an agreed lump sum payout, which may ending up being less than if you kept working and received future pension payments after you had retired. This has all resulted in major shortages in the supply chain, while having at the same time a substantial increase in inflation to the cost of all goods and services across the board in this new normal. The cost of gas, oil, and home heating oil. We have shipping and the manufacturing of products suffering greatly. With the stalling of the cargo ships, and now the trucker shortages and problems, and incidentally, iContainer.com reports that sadly only 2% to 10% of the cargo ship containers, these giant containers that have all the stuff they ship around the world, worldwide undergo inspection. That's 2 to 10% of them undergo inspection. That's it. They go on to say that only 5% of all containers shipped to U.S. ports are physically inspected. That's 5% are into U.S. ports are physically inspected. And they say that figure is estimated to be lower in Europe. So Lord only knows what's coming through. So this scarcity economy created by the oligarchs and the technocrats, who many of these rich Silicon Valley types have all tripled their net worth in the pandemic. During our transition from the normal to this new realm that we've grown to accept as the new standard procedure within the new normal, we have Bill Gates, for example, who gets almost giddy when asked questions about population control, vaccines, pandemics, and viruses, or the so-called benefits of putting GMOs in our foods. For example, the Munich Security Conference 2022 held from this February the 18th to February the 20th, and there's plenty of YouTube video footage from the conference. Gates was asked, "Where would you assess we are today in beating COVID-19? His long-winded, revealing answer was, quote, "Sadly, the virus itself, particularly the variant called Omicron, is a type of vaccine. That is, it creates both B-cell and T-cell immunity, and it's done a better job of getting out to the world population than we have with vaccines. If you do sero surveys in African countries, you get well over 80% of people have been exposed either to the vaccine or to various variants. And what that does is it means is the chance of severe disease, which is mainly associated with being elderly and having obesity or diabetes. Those risks are now dramatically reduced because of that infection exposure. And it's sad we didn't do a good therapeutic. A great job on therapeutics. Only here 2 years in do we have a good therapeutic. Vaccines that took us 2 years to be in oversupply. Today, there are more vaccines than there are demand for vaccines. And that wasn't true. The next time we should try and make it, instead of 2 years, we should make it more like 6 months, which certainly, some of the standardized platform approaches, including mRNA, would allow us to do that. So, it took us a lot longer this time than it should have. Should have. End quote. CNBC.com reports that Gates at the Munich summit said that the risks of severe disease, or it's actually CNBC reported this, that the risks of severe disease from COVID-19 have dramatically reduced. But he said that another pandemic is all but certain. He said at the conference to CNBC's Hadley Gamble that a potential new pandemic would likely stem from a different pathogen to that of the coronavirus family. And another key player in the shaping of the new normal is Klaus Schwab, the German engineer and economist that is best known as the founder and executive chairman of the World Economic Forum, or the WEF. Schwab who also heads the earlier mentioned Davos Forum, held in Davos, Switzerland. On weforum.org, it says a quote from Schwab about creating his future vision of the Great Reset and what he's coining as the creation of what he's calling the Fourth Industrial Revolution. He said back in 2020 at the World Economic Forum, he said, quote, "The COVID-19 crisis is affecting every facet of people's lives in every corner of the world. But tragedy need not be its only legacy. On the contrary, the pandemic represents a rare but narrow window of opportunity to reflect, reimagine, and reset our world to create a healthier, more equitable, and more prosperous future." End quote. So because of the pandemic, everybody has been whittled down, with the New York Times reporting 947,000 COVID-19 deaths in America, and still counting. And worldwide, the death toll stands at 4,997,000 deaths, in what all feels like a giant purge of the people. And here we are, the last ones standing, all the ones who were physically and emotionally strong enough to survive. We have taken our vaccines and immunity boosters in hopes that we can continue to endure to the end, as the Bible puts it. And that includes all the things that our controllers will force us to endure, also in the process. Some will be advantageous, and some will be detrimental to us, unfortunately. And from the survivors of our handlers' social experiments and social engineering, they have nudged us to this world reset, where all of the good little followers and sheep will be assured to live long lives spent wasted working away and keeping the money machines pumping through our taxpayer dollars to continue to finance all the elite's plans and agendas. They have planned for all of us. Welcome, America and the world, to the Great Reset. As Klaus Schwab puts it, eventually, quote, "You will own nothing and be happy," unquote. Sounds like fun, huh? Well, enjoy, America. Well, there's been a lot of stuff going on, and that was an interesting video. A lot of these, we've been put through all this stuff, and they just keep molding and shaping us to where they want us to be and how they want us to act and how they want us to think and what information we're supposed to have. And if you, as with the truckers in Canada, if you even, they had like a single mother, she donated like $15 to the trucker cause in Canada, the protest, and they're going after people, like anybody who donates even $10, some people, and they're getting penalized, and they're taking away, they're freezing bank accounts. I guess they've stopped that now. Trudeau has stopped that, but they were freezing bank accounts, and people that are supporting it are getting problems and can't access certain funds and different things that they're doing to them. So basically, this week's, be careful, because this week's going to be big, crazy stuff happening. Biden's speech tomorrow, and there's going to be a huge trucker. All these truckers from around the country are going to be convening at the Capitol also. It's going to be a big mess. There's probably going to be a lot of people, a lot of violence, a lot of people hurt and possibly killed, is my prediction for this week. Hopefully it doesn't go out that way, but or play out that way. And then if hopefully Biden doesn't decide to start freezing accounts and doing similar things. So basically, yeah. So that's going to be crazy. And according to refinery29.com, tomorrow, well, last Tuesday, tomorrow to, today with the speech later today. Well, last Tuesday on 2/22/2022, we had the planet Pluto. Some say it's not an official planet, like NASA considers it a dwarf planet, but Pluto's return, and it's specifically for the U.S., is experiencing and has been experiencing since last week Pluto's return. But get this, Pluto will, Pluto basically will reach 27 degrees Capricorn. That was last Tuesday. It did, and that's the degree and sign Pluto was in during the signing of the Declaration of Independence in 1776. So this is going to be a huge, humongous week, and it already has been, and it's going to be even crazier. There's a bunch of stuff going on, and Pluto return signifies upheaval and change. There'll be a lot of leaders and people dying, and a lot of changes of the guards, and craziness happening. And like they said, there's going to be a new, Gates is saying, there's going to be a new pandemic, and was this more of a controlled pandemic where they put us through the steps of a pandemic to get us used, because we're not the rest of the world, like China and different parts of the world. They've had to wear the mask for a long time. They wear it all the time, and for the pollution too, and different diseases, and like when SARS first came out and stuff. Well, is this just training to get us used to pandemics in the future, and the close future, really? Well, I hope everybody's doing all right. I would just be on alert, be careful, be cautious. It's going to be a lot of people uh, just basically essentially going crazy this week, and a lot of changes, disruptions, all kinds of different things. So just be strong, be safe, still be careful with this pandemic. It's not over yet. I know the CDC says put your mask down and all that. No, I'm not putting my mask down, and I know they're going to try to get people to take their masks off inside buildings pretty soon. That's the next step. Try to get people back off of this mask thing when it's just going to pick back up when the next pandemic comes along, of course. But they want to keep things moving and keep us guessing and keep the confusion going. So that's what they'll be doing, you can bet. And I just want everybody to be careful out there and live your life and pay attention to all this. But, like I said before, you live your life one day at a time and you enjoy it, because you can't let the world get you down. You got to live your life for the moment. And you don't know how long you have and all that. So be strong and don't give up on things, and just persevere and get through it, and you'll be a better person for it. So thanks for listening, and I hope everybody does good this week, and I'm hoping things aren't that bad at the Capitol later, but sadly I think there's going to be a lot of problems, so get ready for that. And so thanks for listening, as always, and keep the faith, and peace out.